and welcome to Doodle Therapy, an interactive drawing show here on Adobe Live, where we come together to doodle, hang out with a guest artist every other week, and just have fun together. It's great to see everyone in the chat. If you're joining us live, please feel free to say hello and also share where you're joining us from. My name is Alice. I am an illustrator and muralist based in the SF Bay area, and I'm really excited to welcome this week's guests. Please join me in welcoming Roxy and Matt Ortiz from Wood and Wave. Welcome guys.
Yay! Hi. Thanks for having us.
It's great to have you on. Yeah, it's been really fun to have hosted this stream for the last year and a half, and I'm really excited to finally get some mural buddies on the stream. So, yay! So if you're new to the show, the way that it works is we are on every other week here on Adobe Live, and we bring on a different guest artist every time. So we also have a different doodle theme every week. And so this week our theme is very relevant to Roxy and Matt's work. We are going to be talking about world building. So if that's interesting to you, please feel free to draw along. You can grab a notebook and a pen and just spend the next hour doodling and hanging out with us. So just to jump into things, Roxy and Matt, thanks for joining us. I've got some of your amazing work here on the screen. Do you mind telling us a little bit about yourself and what you're about, where you're joining us from?
All right. Hi. So we're coming to you from Honolulu, Hawaii, and we are in our art studio right now in the Kaka'ako area, which is a very popular mural destination, actually. We're in the home of the Powwow Worldwide Mural Festival neighborhood. So we have murals from talented artists from all over the world right on these streets. So it's definitely an inspiring place to work from.
Yeah, we've been here for a while, and it's our kind of our hub for where we have a lot of our creative inspiration. Our art books are here, and we just love having a space that we can kind of call our own to get creative in.
And so we're mural artists, and we were lucky to meet Alice at a mural festival in San Jose. So that was so cool. We do murals here in Hawaii. We've traveled to different states, all the way to Washington, D.C. So from Hawaii to the East Coast to do murals, but we're especially known for our treehouse style. So if you look at the images that are on the slide, you'll see that these are different kind of treehouse structures, but they're shaped in different ways. So you'll see a Darth Vader treehouse, a treehouse in the shape of a boombox. And that one's really fun because the deck or the patio of that one is where the tape deck is. So we like to be a little punny or have fun with different things. The title of the little smoothie or bar there is called the mixtape. So you can get whatever mix drink you might want at that place.
So
for
cute.
Everyone might remember what the mixtape is. Now it's just a playlist, I guess. But back in cassette tape days, right? And then the one above that is our samurai treehouse, and that was painted on a wall in Japantown in San Jose, and that's the festival that we met Alice at. And next to it was is a painting that we did for an art show in Chicago, and so we did a pizza truck. And one of the things, pizza wagon. And a lot of our treehouse structures have skate ramps in them. So you'll see that there's a skate ramp there with that pizza truck and the little half pipe. Yep. That's one of our kind of signature things is we can have fun. You know?
We'll have solar panels, we'll have aquaponics or some sort of garden element. And then we'll also have the fun, which is going to be like skateboards, surfboards, like Roxy said, skate ramps, slides, swings. And so we're really trying to combine the idea of sustainability, adventure, and fun. It's kind of like the juxtaposition of joy and like adventure. And imagine sort of like if Peter Pan became an architect and was really conscious about where your food comes from and how you get energy and water catchment, what would he build? Like, he'd make it fun, right? He'd make it super rad.
That's basically the
a tad bit dangerous, maybe.
Yeah. Safety first, or at least a close second.
Yeah, probably safety third.
Yeah. But that's kind of our tagline. And if Peter Pan was an architect, what would he build? So that's kind of what our focuses and what drives us in our world building. So if you're going to live in a treehouse, you need the green roofs and the things to be able to sustain yourself and to eat, but you also want to have fun, and that's where all those other things come into play.
That's right.
So when we're doing world building, that's what we have in mind.
Yeah. So we're actually got a really interesting question in the chat from Misty Iwatsu, who asks, what is world building? Could you tell us a little bit about like how you approach that, since I think your work is so detailed and there's clearly like, it's like a universe that you could just like imagine yourself in. So how do you guys like approach this concept of world building, and like what does it mean to you?
Thank you. That's a great question, Misty. I think when we approach a project, we try to approach it from a sense of like who's going to live there, and if they were living there, how would they take care of the essentials, right? The essentials being, okay, what are you going to eat and how are you getting your food? So in a treehouse scenario, that probably ends up becoming some sort of vertical garden scenario. It's a lot of small gardening pots. You got to have your kales, your lettuce, your fruits and veggies. And like that's a lot where Roxy kind of is in the garden design department, I would say. And then on my end, I'm always like, well, we got to fit in the half pipe. We're going to build the world. Like I want to be able to skate, and I also want to have a place. We both surf. So it's like, okay, we've got to have our surfboards.
Yeah.
But then also designing the structure for places of leisure where there's decks with tables. Oftentimes we'll put a cup of coffee on that table that's still hot. And you'll notice a lot of our tree houses, well, all of them don't have characters. And we sort of build these worlds that are sort of empty, but they're empty because
we want you to imagine yourself in.
Right. And you just left your cup of coffee there, and now you're like doing something else. Maybe you're washing dishes.
Right. Yeah, we purposely don't put characters in there so that you can insert yourself in there. Mm-hmm. And that's what we found to be really fun when we're painting murals of these tree houses, because we'll have friends or families come up and they'll start talking to each other and say like, oh, okay, you're going to live in that room. I'm going to live across the way in that tree. And then we're going to skate to each other. And there's this whole conversation where you immediately, imagine what it would be like to kind of navigate your way through the space and what would be your favorite parts to enjoy. And so when we talk about world building, he's correct in saying like, who would live there? So I think when you're trying to think of maybe doing a world building drawing, like who is it for? Is it for people? Is it, a little place for like your corgi, like your pet, like where your pet tortoise live, like how would they have fun in the space? And also
I think it's like a lot of times when we do murals, we try to incorporate something that's site specific. Mm-hmm. So if you're doing a mural or you're doing an illustration that has a certain cultural bent to it, for example, in Hawaii, being Hawaiian, but also we're both Chinese, like if we were doing a mural that was in an area that has a really beautiful cultural connection to a specific type of tree or a type of food, like in Hawaii, we eat taro all the time, and maybe we'll want to incorporate that into the garden, or that would be the tree that holds up the treehouse, even though the people we'll be working on today has a little bit of cultural resonance with us, and just kind of, it gives you an opportunity to do some research about, like if I'm going to make a treehouse out of a dragon, what kind of dragons am I looking at? Like, is there an era of Chinese dragons that I want to use as the structural kind of foundation for this drawing? And it just gives you room to sort of like learn about different cultures or different architectural designs. It's really fun that.
We do a lot
and maybe. I was just going to say, I wanted to welcome in everyone who's been saying hi in the chat. So hi to Sam and Val, our awesome mods, and Biola, who says Ola, Pa Tao, Julie Schwartz, Misty, who asked that question, Christina. Welcome, Christina. She was our guest last week. Alicia, Jeremy, Kerwin. It's great to see everyone. So if you're joining us live, please feel free to introduce yourself, share your name, where you're joining us from. It's always really fun to see which time zones are represented. We've got, Pacific time as well as Hawaii time. I'm not sure what the official time zone is represented in this stream, so let us know. And we always have a random question of the day. So my random question of the day is, what is your favorite fictional world? Whether that's from a TV show or book series, video game, etc. If I were to answer that question, I would say I recently started binge watching BoJack Horseman, which I've never watched before, and that whole world is so fascinating to me with all the little animal characters and the funny little puns that they've got going on. You know, even the way they draw the trees are like really weird and kind of quirky. So I would say that's my favorite art world that I've been enjoying jumping into recently. So yeah, let us know in the chat, and Roxy and Matt, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts as well as we transition over to the drawing portion of the stream. So do you mind telling us a little bit about like what you're drawing, how you've set that up, and how you approach creating a world build illustration?
Yeah. Well, actually touching on that idea of what is a favorite fictional world, I was going to say Dinotopia. If anyone knows of Dinotopia, it was a book that was kind of imagined a world where dinosaurs, like it's another island that these two guys get shipwrecked on. It's actually a father and son, and it's just full of dinosaurs that have just continued from, prehistoric times. But the humans on this island and the dinosaurs have learned to coexist, and they actually are very creative in the way that they use the dinosaurs as like the excavators, also as the cranes, transportation.
Oh, cute.
And beautiful world building. So that's, if anyone hasn't seen Dinotopia, the book, it's actually a series. It's gorgeous.
Mm-hmm. Very architectural and just.
It looks like
in there.
It looks like we've got some Dinotopia fans actually.
Oh, yes.
Jeffrey says that he loved reading it as a kid, and Voodoo Val says yes, Dinotopia. So yeah.
Yay. Yeah, we're definitely inspired by all kinds of world builders. I mean, Miyazaki, anything from that like Ghibli studio is just so beautiful, just the color usage and the imagination. So we're definitely animation geeks. Like Matt went to animation school for a couple of years, and I think especially when you're someone who likes to draw, we're just drawn to like Pixar movies and just kind of animations of any kind. And so it's funny because we'll go to a Pixar movie or something like that, and people will say like, "Oh, are you taking your son to it?" And he's only 4, so he's kind of young, but we would go to movies and people were thinking that we were going to take our kid there, and like, "Oh no, just the 2 of us, like we're just going for ourselves."
Nice.
We love
there's no shame.
No shame at all.
It's like the best,
right? And
so this is kind of where you guys are starting off with the sketch.
Yeah, let's see. So a good starting point for us usually is an analog drawing. Like we both will work from a physical sketch. And so, for example, we come up with the idea between the 2 of us one day over coffee or something. We're like, it would be really cool if we did a dragon, but like a Chinese dragon style, like, not like Game of Thrones dragon. Like we're just like thinking about it. We're thinking, okay, how would that work? Would it be, like, would the tree be kind of arcing itself up? Would it be more like a banyan tree or something like that? And then we'll do a rough sketch. Now, the rough sketch is always based off of like a little bit of quick research. We have a beautiful Chinatown here in Honolulu, like right up the street. We could go down there, we go on the internet. And I just want to sort of start off by figuring out the volume of the head of this dragon, so that I know where certain areas have, like, there would be like a cheekbone there. If I could maybe set this aside. You've got a snout that's pretty prominent. I noticed that in a lot of the images, the research. And then just a general like shape of that head. And then that's where I can also figure out like, oh, wow, the way that a lot of times these dragons have antlers coming out, that could also be an opportunity to incorporate the tree again. So the tree could be moving through this head shape, which is it's going to be our treehouse. and then crossing, exiting the top of the head and then continuing out, and then that becomes the antlers. So we're trying to figure out a way to personify this creature architecturally. So this is the initial sketch. I'll undo all my messy drawings. Excuse me.
Nice.
Maybe while you're doing that, I can say. So our sketchbook is something that we kind of just have with us everywhere so that we can just do little drawings or take notes. And even though we have, a tablet with us or a laptop with us, there's just something nice about having a sketchbook where we can revisit it. And it's just kind of in a form that's very loose and non-committal.
Mm-hmm.
So these sketches will end up being, maybe we have a project or a client in mind when we're sketching, but a lot of times it's like, we'll just, like you said, be having coffee or, just talking to each other in the car, and then we'll just sketch out an idea. And it might not come to something immediately, but then we'll just have this reservoir of ideas so that when it's coming to, something like this and we want to draw, it's like, oh, this is actually a great opportunity to pick up this idea that we had and we really wanted to flesh out, but we didn't have a particular client or goal in mind, like now's the opportunity to go. So it's nice just to sketch and not really think too much about it, right?
So
just
the next step we have here is the structure fleshed out quite a bit more, like Roxy was talking about. And then you can kind of see, like if we toggle between the initial one, it's basically a trace, right, of this image, which was the sketch, which is just the dragon drawing. Then we toggle that off and we're back on here. And you can see now that I've already gone ahead, and this is the roughest iteration that we'll have, just sort of quickly sort of detailing, all right, we're going to make the main area. And when I say main, I mean like they have these like main structures, like their mains kind of emanate a lot of times from where the cheekbone is. So I'll say, okay, well, why don't we turn those mains into rooftops? All right, great. So do some quick sketches on that. And then I go, okay, I know we need to also have the dome shape of the head, but there's several ways we could do that. Maybe we turn that into a geodesic dome. We'll do that. And like, okay.
Then it could be a greenhouse.
Yeah, we could turn that into a greenhouse, and we've done tree houses where we just do that option. Then it kind of
looks a little round, like maybe a pound or something.
Simplified. And I think the opportunity exists with like Chinese architecture or Asian architecture in general. When you get to like palaces and pagodas, that there's this really beautiful tradition of rooftop design where there's a lot of swooping curves, right? You've got really very complicated ways in which they'll create the arc of the roof, and they're using stonework, like it's all tile. It's incredible. Like I've kind of gone down the wormhole, and I'm not an expert in this field at all, but I've gone down the wormhole of like how they structure it, and it's gorgeous. So that's the challenge for this project. It's like, how can we show a little bit of that rooftop design and make it look like a dragon? Okay, so we've got our half pipe in there.
And that's where the research comes in.
Oh, you've got a half pipe? Amazing. And Val in the chat says this sketch is so great. I also want to share my sketch really quick before I jump into something. So to also answer one of the questions of favorite worlds, which we got some really fun chat submissions. Christina says Avatar: The Last Airbender or Steven Universe, and Joanne says Hogwarts. I also love Animal Crossing. I know it's a favorite of many people who watch the stream. So I also got really into, if you're familiar with Animal Crossing, you'll know that you can crossbreed flowers and create all these different color flowers. Like if you crossbreed a red and a white daisy, you get a pink daisy. And so people really just go ham and like make these beautiful flower arrangements. So my friend Amy and I, who's also been on the stream and will be the guest next week, have been making these cute little Animal Crossing planters that I'll flash really quickly. So they're like Animal Crossing characters, but they're like planters that you can put plants in. So I wanted to create an illustration as like the cover illustration for our zine that we're making about this planter project. So using some of these plants from Animal Crossing, I'm gonna make this like flower painting, and then maybe have little characters peeking out of it, you know, here and there. Maybe you see like a little bit of a sloth, which is the leaf character who like sells you the plants in Animal Crossing, or you see a little frog in the corner. And that will kind of be the title card for our project. So yeah, that's kind of my thing. So I've started to sketch it out, and now I'm just gonna start painting some flowers, occasionally referencing the Animal Cross. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, there's seven flowers in the Animal Crossing universe that you can like breed and hybridize. So yeah, that's gonna be my project.
That's cool. I'm looking forward to seeing this zine and the plants come together with the planters and everything. That's definitely its own little world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Inside that frog head, it's kind of coming out like a little fro.
Yes, we're trying to match the plants that we put in these planters with the character. So, for example, we're trying to make a Daisy May, which is the turnip seller. But she's proving to be very complicated, but it'd be cool to have like a turnip-like flower or plant in there. Or there's Celeste, who is the purple owl who shows up whenever there's a shooting star, and she gives you like a shooting star recipe. So I'm trying to find these like purple star flowers or like succulents that I could put into her.
Yeah. Ooh, succulents might be cool. Yeah. Or lavender, maybe.
Yeah, lavender would be cute. Oh, and thanks to everyone in the chat for the encouragement about the planters. And shout out to all the Animal Crossing fans out there. So, as we kind of get into drawing, and so now we can, hop back into it. Misty wants to know, how do you work and live together and not want to kill each other? And Val says teamwork, respect, and love.
Thank you. Yeah. And Misty, she's got the good questions.
She does. Yeah, we're still alive, so we're proof it's possible. So we've been married for 10 years, but we've been together for 15, and we've been working together for almost as long as that. So we've definitely had a long time to practice to get to this point. So it's not easy. And I think a big part of it is it's definitely tricky when you're an artist, right? Because you have so many creative ideas and things that you think, like, I think it would look cool this way. And, your partner thinks, oh, I don't know, I think it would look better this way. And how do you negotiate those compromises? And especially being husband and wife, right? It's like you fight about the dishes, but then you also fight about like what the next project is going to be. So you have more things to have to talk about, right? I think we've kind of figured out over the years where our strengths are, and we kind of stay in each other's lanes. And so I kind of think of it as a highway where we're going in the same direction, right? And we can be going as fast as we want, but we don't want to cross over the line. Otherwise there might be an accident, right? So it's like, let's both get to our destination intact. So we've just kind of figured out what we're good at, what we don't like to do, what can we kind of delegate to each other. And then so you kind of have to let go of ego, because I think as artists, especially when you're multi-passionate, you feel like you can do a lot of things and you want to have your opinions heard in all the different areas. And for us, we've kind of figured out that my strengths lie in project management. We both do the idea phase of things, like both ideating how something's going to look. But Matt is definitely the better drawer out of the two of us. So I don't even touch the initial drawings or anything like that. That's all him. I'll just kind of come in when we're doing ideas, and I'll say like, oh, okay, that's looking great. Maybe we should change the perspective on this so that it exposes, the face part of this a little bit better, or like, the gardens are looking great, but I think we can have more. Let's maybe use this side of the building. So I'll just kind of let him draw and do his thing, because he's amazing at it, right? And then I'll just kind of, yay!
That's sweet.
And then,
heard it here.
Yeah. And then I'll just be, working on project planning and, emails, or doing scheduling or thinking of ideas of something else that we want to do. And then when it comes to painting, then we both go in on the painting together. So usually that's for a mural. We'll both be painting murals together, or if it's for a show or a painting commission. Ideally, we like to work on multiple paintings at the same time. That way we can be painting two different pieces, and I can be painting the trees, and I can say like,
it's also more
I don't know where this is going. Like, you take it for a while. Like, I've been looking at this for too long, and we'll switch. So it's kind of nice to have that where we can bounce things back and forth.
I would say in this part, we're in the sketch phase. That's definitely more my territory. But like when we're in the painting phase, especially when we're on murals, like she's the color person. I really see everything very linear. Like she talked about seeing things 3D. She's got a good sculptural kind of mind, but also colors.
Yeah, because she has the background.
Black and white, yeah.
Yeah.
I love color. Yeah, so we really just kind of go back and forth, and so I'll come in on this and be like, let's bump up the fun factor, or like we need a swing or a slide in there. Like, let's see where we can add that in. So we're constantly just communicating a lot, and I think that's one reason why we've been able to stay married is communication is just really important. And I think because we started off as friends too, we're just like, we are each other's best friend, and so we're constantly talking to each other about anything and everything. And so, if we're watching a movie, we're like, boom boxes.
Yeah.
If it's like an 80s movie, like, we should do a treehouse in the shape of a boombox. Like, put that in the sketchbook, and then eventually this drawing that's behind us, and then it also became a few murals that we did with a boombox.
If our subject matter wasn't as fun and kind of whimsical and joyful, if it wouldn't be as fun to work. Because if we were like doing something that was really like dark, if we were doing really dark work, it was kind of aggressive.
But I feel like even if you like dark work, that's what you like, and you're still passionate about that, so it's still fun for you. Like, we just happen to be people who like surf and skate culture and are really into ideas of sustainability. So we geek out on that kind of stuff. And we just both happen to be excited about it. And we met in our early 20s, so we kind of grew up together in that way of developing our art styles, together. And so
we've been together quite a while in terms of like collaborators.
Right.
How many years would you say?
Well, 15 years. We pretty much started working together, I think, after the first year.
Yeah.
We met in college, and it's kind of that environment where everyone's working on projects late into the night, right? And then I end up helping him with his final project because he's working until 3 a.m. to get something done. And then same thing with me. I'm having him like cut wood for my sculpture. Making frames, whatever. So you just kind of start in this collaborative thing where you're just helping each other meet deadlines, which is basically, now that we're freelancers, that's the kind of the same thing, right? Like, it's not turning in a project into your professor, and now it's turning it into your client or your customer, right? Yeah. So it's just about what it is.
Yeah. So kind of talking about your art journey. After you guys graduated from art school where you guys met, did you jump straight into freelance, or did you work in-house anywhere? Like, what was that path like for you?
Sure. Let's see.
For me, my first job out of high school, I learned Photoshop off of, which was key. I learned Photoshop through a photography studio that I worked at. That was great. So I learned Photoshop. And then my second job, which I stayed at for like 4 or 5 years, was I worked at the graphics department of a architectural firm, and loved it because I was doing Photoshop, but I was also working on a lot of renderings that the architects, there was 2 architects who were really good at the rendering. And when I talk about renderings, they would use Prismacolor, color pencil, they would draw on vellum, they would do like the conceptual design of what the building was going to look like, plus all the foliage, plus the ocean or whatever was in that, and the sky. And they were doing it like analog. There was no 3D renderings, there was no CAD. It was beautiful. They had these like electric erasers, the ones that like, and it was just like all this stuff was so counterintuitive to like how I was always on the screen, and then I would see them drawing. I was like, oh, you guys still do that? That's awesome.
So tactile.
Yeah. And they were they kind of opened my eyes to the beauty of architecture in that way.
Yeah, that's so cool. And then at what point did you guys decide to take the leap and jump into freelance? Into the chapter of Wood and Wave where you guys are like an independent studio.
Right. Well, so I actually started graduate school at the same University of Hawaii. So when you're a graduate student, you get your own studio.
Okay.
And so that was the first kind of grown-up thing, right? To have your own art studio, to have the space where you can create. And I was teaching at the same time. So I was a teaching assistant for a drawing and painting class. So that was my job. But then we had this art studio that we could work in. So Matt and I had thought, you know, it'd be so fun to have a t-shirt company. You know, I think that's something that like when you're in high schooler, you always want to have like the next Stussy, right? Like everybody draws the Stussy S and imagines like what their skate company or surf company might be.
What did you say? The next what?
Like Stussy?
Like Quicksilver.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I had Stussy. Well, I don't think it was like popular in my area when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
But, like Roxy.
You were our generation. Roxy.
Yeah.
But what our thing is like, we didn't want to have a brand where it would just be like a phrase across the shirt or like just the brand in big letters or different fonts or something. You know, we wanted it to be about the art. And so we started just screen printing shirts in my art studio because we had the space. So we would string up these lines going across my studio to dry the t-shirts. And so we would do these detailed illustrations, screen print them on the shirts. And the shirts were actually like organic cotton or recycled rayon, like blend. But our idea was that people would buy the shirts because they really loved the drawings, but then they would also be taking more sustainable action by, just by default having a shirt that's made with more sustainable materials, right?
Yeah.
So that was kind of the first iteration of us kind of having something together. So we'd be screen printing after class and after work, and we got our shirts into a bunch of different stores.
It's pretty exciting.
Cool.
It was really fun. Yeah, we got written up in different, blogs were really big back then. So we were getting on these big blogs, and we got printed in Condé Nast Travel. So it did really well. But the thing is, we didn't have a couch in our apartment because we just had boxes of t-shirts. And the thing about the bigger you get as a product company, the more products you have to, store somewhere and the more inventory you're having to do. And so all of your time is getting taken away from these kind of like administrative tasks versus creating new designs or new art. And so we kind of had to come back and be like, what is our end goal with this? Do we want to be a t-shirt company or do we want to be artists? Because it seems like things are getting a little funky that way.
Right.
And we'd been doing it for maybe, I want to say 3 or 4 years, but we'd also been doing more art shows where we'd been painting collaboratively. I think we'd done our first mural together by then. And so we were starting to get freelance work. And it was really hard to juggle all those hours, right? Because we still had jobs as well. And I was still going to graduate school. So, something's got to give, right? So we let go of the t-shirts, stopped doing that, and decided to focus more on the fine art painting and then doing illustrations for commercial clients or editorial, that kind of thing. So pretty much from college, we just kind of jumped into working together just for fun.
Yeah.
And then it just quickly became something that we could do as a job. And I continued to teach. I got an opportunity to be an art teacher at a private high school. So I did that for a time. I was teaching art and then also marketing and entrepreneurship. And actually, I still do one class where just once a week online, I mentor students in entrepreneurship and marketing. So I still do that just because I just can talk about that kind of stuff all day. So I still do mentoring. I still do kind of coaching for up and coming artists who want to kind of know what it's like to do freelance work. So I still love doing teaching as well.
You're a good teacher.
Yeah.
It's fun. Yeah. Especially now with the internet, there's just so many more opportunities to kind of share information, right?
Yeah. How did you guys in the beginning figure out the balance you want to strike between your fine artwork and the client work? Because one problem that I've had personally is I feel like I'm really, really motivated when I work with other people. So like when a client asks me to do something, I'm like really motivated because there's like someone else. Or even when I work with a friend, like my friend Amy on this pottery project. But sometimes when I work with myself, I have a lot less motivation. So my problem, if I'm not careful or conscious about it, is I'll just end up doing like 100% client work in my schedule, and then I'll maybe do like one personal illustration, you know, in like 6 months or something. So it's like something I really have to push myself to be like, no, I want it to be like 50-50 or whatever the mix is.
Right. Yeah, I think it is tricky. I think it's easier for us now, whereas before, it's just different parts of your career, I guess, too. Like in the beginning, we were getting hired for a lot of things. We didn't have a definitive style necessarily. So I think it was more like work and personal work. And so our treehouse designs come from our personal work. But then people saw that and started hiring us for our personal work. So that's one thing that we talk about. Like if there's something that you really want to do, make it public. Because I think when you're just starting out, you feel either insecure about your personal work, or you don't want to share it because for some reason you're thinking that someone might steal your ideas on the internet, and so you don't share it. But it's actually better to do the opposite, which is to share it with as many people as possible.
I agree.
That way people know that that's something you're interested in, because people aren't going to hire you for something that they don't know you like to do, right? So as soon as we started doing these treehouse paintings, and we only did 2 of them actually, but they just got such a huge wave of response of people just so enthusiastic about that style that we immediately knew that we were onto something.
That's one of them right there.
Yeah, one of our first ones.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those things where we hit on this idea of play and nostalgia, where you either had a treehouse as a kid or you wanted one, right? And you saw, like, we were really inspired by the movie Hook with Robin Williams, and just the Lost Boys, and just being free and able to live in a treehouse and skate and just have that kind of like recklessness, adventure, kind of playful attitude that people really loved to kind of access through our illustration. So we just started drawing more tree houses in our free time, trying to figure out how we could make them more interesting. And they always, from the beginning, had a skate ramp in them and then some little gardens. And then whenever you have an idea, right, it starts off rough. And like, I think with a lot of people, like when you look back on your work 5 years later, you kind of cringe a little bit, like, ooh, we thought that was so cool at the time, but now, it was so basic. But that's where you start, right? Like you just start with this kind of seed of an idea. And as your skills get better and as you do more research and, find more ways or things to incorporate, it just gets better and better. So our tree houses now are way, way, way more complex from the beginning. In the beginning, they were just these square box tree houses. There wasn't crazy architecture.
The clubhouse one. Remember the clubhouse one? Maybe I'll talk about that. That's kind of good. I used to work at this other company I worked with after I left the architecture firm. It was I worked in a lumber yard. It was like a completely different change of like scenery. Like I worked on the computer screen for 4 years. It was just like constantly in an office.
To working outside.
Working outside on like driving a forklift, and it was super fun because I liked the physicality of it. But it was a lumber yard for this place called Reuse Hawaii. And Reuse Hawaii, what they did is they're a nonprofit. They would, instead of demoing your house, right? Say you buy a property and you want to build a new house, the old house, you don't like it, or it's decrepit or something. A lot of times people just smash it up. And then in Hawaii, it gets thrown into a landfill. But you got to think Hawaii is a small little island. Our resources here are super finite, and land is a premium. And so you've got this whole, like it's a dump on the west side of the island that's just getting filled up every day with stuff from people's houses that is actually reusable.
Nice beams.
Beautiful material, wood that, redwood that you can't even find now.
flooring.
or that's super expensive. So
Yeah.
I worked there and I saw the capability to build things with like cabinets. You could use like, oh, there's a faucet tub here for sale.
Wait, let's fill the jump. So what Reuse Hawaii did is they deconstructed houses by hand.
Yes,
So,
thank you.
so to make the jump, instead of hiring the contractor who would just come with a bulldozer and just wreck the house, you could hire Reuse Hawaii to come, and instead they'd come with a crew and decon everything.
We're so confused. We're like, what is he talking about?
Yeah, so then all the materials would be brought to Reuse Hawaii, and Matt worked in the yard where all the materials would get sorted.
Yes.
And then the public, like you and I, can just go to Reuse Hawaii. We're building a house right now, so we visit Reuse Hawaii almost every week to go and see what they have, because people also donate things. You know, like maybe you're renovating your kitchen, but you have these countertops that are in great condition. You just don't like what they are, right? So you just, take out your countertop and then you donate it to Reuse Hawaii. So it's kind of like this thrift store meets construction store, right? Like it gets all these donated things from the public, but also from, hotels or commercial sites that are renovating. You find a lot of cool things there, like bathtubs and sinks, tile. We've got some cute tile from there before.
Cool.
Made a clubhouse illustration based on all the materials that were there, and like what kind of clubhouse could you make using all these kind of refurbished scrap things.
That was the first clubhouse idea, and there was a quarter pipe skateboard ramp, the surfboards in there, and that's where the light bulb went off. We still have that image. It was like seminal, right? And we saw that and we're like, whoa, this is
that
cool.
was the pivot point.
This is cool. And I still look back at that one and I think, that one still...
It still holds up.
It still holds up because it was detailed and it was actual objects that I was drawing from the warehouse.
So there's a bathtub and then it has plants growing out of the bathtub.
That was the first time we thought about aquaponics systems in a treehouse, because I put a tub in there and then we were like, we should put some plants growing out of the tub, and then like a shower hose that was our shower spigot, dripping water onto it. I was like, it's like a hydroponic system, and then we would have solar panels that would come into this warehouse. Let's slap a solar panel on here too. And that was where it was like,
Love it. Also, quick question. Actually, in our preview, we can see the QuickTime play button. Is it possible to move your mouse on your computer so it's not showing? I think the mouse is hovering over it. So if you just move it off of it.
There.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks.
Thanks, guys. Sorry about that.
Yeah, that's so interesting to hear your journey. And I know that there's probably people watching and listening to this who might get inspired by, what you're saying of just share your work, don't be afraid. That's the best thing you could do for yourself is share your work, even if you're still feel like you're a work in progress. The way that you develop is by just doing more, and then you can get more opportunities to do more stuff if you put it out there.
Definitely. Yeah, you just have to put it out there, and then the comments that come back can be really helpful too, people just saying have you thought about, including this in a treehouse, or have you seen this movie? I think you'd really like this movie. And then, that inspires something else. It helps to build community too. I think kind of what you were mentioning about artists tend to work in silos, we work in, by ourselves. And that's where a lot of doubt can creep in, and just a lot of questioning and indecision. Whereas if you put it out and you can ask a question hey, what do you guys think about this? I was thinking of maybe adding, XYZ into there. What do you think? People can get your opinions, and then suddenly you're not alone anymore, right? And you can get some helpful feedback and have dialogue back and forth, and maybe meet some like-minded people. So yeah, there's a lot of value in sharing your work, and we're all as artists, art is so personal. So I think a lot of times it's we're sharing our heart in a way, right? But that's how you're able to meet people and have true connection, is when you're vulnerable, right?
Yeah. I mean, is that something you guys ever had to work through when you were starting out, of perfectionism or feeling shy or even scared of not wanting to take the leap in the beginning?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely. And I think too, especially when it comes to the idea of whether you leave your day job or not, like, are we really going to take this leap? We had that times too, right? Because at first it was with Matt, like, should he leave his day job? And I really liked teaching. So Matt was the first one to leave his day job because he could at least have my steady paycheck coming through every month. So even if things are a little bit slow, it's okay because, my job can cover that. But it's still like a scary leap to make. Right. And then the same kind of back and forth had to happen where, like, can we afford for both of us to, do freelance?
Right.
And I think too, a lot of people really want to make that jump, but I still teach because I love it. And I don't feel like I'm going to leave that anytime soon. Like, I like having the steady paycheck that provides. I like being able to give value back to people, to kind of distill what we've learned over the 15 years of working together. I can distill that into, a 6-month course, and then people can skip all the mistakes that we made, and I feel like that's a fun way to give back. So I'm probably going to keep doing that forever. And so I think there's like a weird psychological thing of like, oh, if you're not doing art full time, you're not a real artist. Like, for some reason, art is like this thing that people like to be like, oh, but you're going to be so poor, or like joking about like, oh, how does that feel? Like, you could have been a doctor, but like, oh, you're a starving artist. Like, this assumption that like you're not a real artist if it's not your job. Like, there's a lot of weird stuff around that. The starving artist
meme is a dangerous one.
It is.
It's funny and it works as like alleviates like awkward moments sometimes, but really it's it's a profession and you work your ass off on it. So.
Yeah, and I don't think you necessarily leave your day job either. Like, I feel like there's a lot of people who will meet that they'll show us their art and it's amazing, and they're like, yeah, but I still can't make a living out of it, as if it makes their art less valuable, And so I'm always telling people, don't worry about leaving your day job or not leaving your day job. Like, if you like what you do in your job and you find that fulfilling, why do you ever need to leave that? Like, art can be something that you do for yourself or that you share with certain people. Maybe you do freelance sometimes, but like, being an artist as a profession isn't for everyone either, but that doesn't mean that you have to stop making art because it's not your profession.
Right.
So I think that's a lot of the things that we kind of do when we're coaching other artists is like, do you want to leave your full-time job? Because if you don't, like, that's okay. Being a freelance and having clients is a lot of work. There's so much creative work that goes into it. You're doing your own taxes, you're doing your own inventory, accounting, all that stuff. So if you really love art and you want to keep it that kind of pure thing that feeds your soul, for some people, they get really intimidated by having these client relationships and they feel like that it impacts their work in a negative way. Like, you don't have to do that. Like, you can keep your art as something that you just share with people at craft fairs or like at designer con or different things like that. And it doesn't have to be like the thing that pays your bills,
Right. And we're seeing some great questions and comments in the chat. So Christina a while ago said that she was feeling this conversation, the juggle between being like a business and then being like an artist. Yeah. To answer your question, Val, I don't think I have smoothing on since I am, it's 0% for me. And it's possible that Matt might have it on because he's using Fresco. I'm using Photoshop. And Alicia wants to know, do you have any advice for someone looking to be self-taught or is attending YouTube, Behance courses while working full-time? So it sounds like you're self-directed and you're sort of creating your own curriculum.
Yeah, that's great. I'm a big fan of the University of YouTube.
Yeah.
I love it so much.
Beautiful.
I think that's one thing that is just so beautiful about kind of the time we live in is that there's so much information available online, and there's a lot of free content on YouTube, but once you find somebody that you really love, like their teaching style or their philosophy, then you can buy their courses or, go to summits and things like that. So
tailored to you.
Yeah, it's really tailored to whatever you're interested in. So I'd say like 100%. I was really into art marketing and entrepreneurship, and I don't have any formal education, from an institution, but I was really attracted to certain YouTubers on that. And then now I teach entrepreneurship and marketing using like 10 years of watching YouTube videos. Like that's where all of my knowledge comes from. And then like from having our own business and knowing what worked and what didn't. And I'd say it's been so much more applicable when I talk to people who have gone to business school and we just kind of nerd out on stuff and we'll like exchange resources, and they're super stoked on like the YouTubers that I'll recommend for things. And so there's so much value that comes from people online. So I would say, yeah, you know, you have your day job and then at night, that's when you go and watch YouTube videos. Like, for a time in college, I think for about 6 years, actually, during my undergrad and when I was in graduate school, I was also working at a restaurant. So I was either hosting or being a server or a cocktail server, depending on what year it was. But I think in graduate school, I worked the breakfast shift. So I would work from 6 a.m. to noon. I would come home, change, shower, and then I would go to class until like 3 or 4, and then I would teach from 4 to 6. And then have dinner. Then he and I would work on whatever projects we were working on. And then like late nights, just, you know, geeking out on YouTube videos, things like that. And then do the same thing the next day. So it was a crazy hustle. Like people talk about, you know, what it takes to kind of get your work out there. And nothing is overnight. Like it's 15 years of us working together to where we are now. Lots of late nights where we would give up, you know, surfing or things that we used to do a lot when we were first starting to date. We just wouldn't do it as much. You know, when we first started dating, we would surf together every day after class, you know, and then now we just don't surf. Now we don't surf near as much. But it's really kind of doing things when you don't feel like it to get to where you really want, right?
Self-directed is all.
And we've only got a few minutes. We've only got a few minutes left in our stream. We've got about 3 minutes left. I know that's sped by. It's been really fun to catch up with you guys since the last time we all. So the way that I know Matt and Roxy is, like they mentioned, we were both muralists. We were all muralists at the Pow Wow San Jose Mural Festival in 2019, I believe. So it's been a while. But yeah, time just really flies on this stream. So please check out their work. You can check them out at woodenwaveart.com, which Voodoo Val has put into the chat. Thank you, Val. And their Instagram is woodenwaveart. That's the Twitter. So Instagram is at @wooden_wave. Yes, it's right above their heads in the screen. Yeah. And also my Instagram and Twitter is @byAliceLee, as well as my Behance. It's right above my head. So if you end up watching the stream afterwards and you have any questions about what we're doing or the setup, or if you end up creating your own world build illustration or sketch, feel free to share it with us at wooden_wave or @byAliceLee for myself. And with the last couple minutes, I also just wanted to share some news about Doodle Therapy. So we've been having this stream for the last 1.5 years now. Started in March 2020. Actually, my first stream, our test stream, was with Voodoo Val. So thanks, Val. That was really fun to do as a first, remote live stream. And so I've decided just in the next quarter, for the fourth quarter of 2021, to take a step back from streaming, as other projects and traveling was going to ramp up. Now it's sort of ramping back down again. But as things sort of ramping up, just taking a little step back from streaming. Like sometimes you just gotta take a break, even if it's from a great thing. And so this will be our final Doodle Therapy regular stream. And in 2 weeks, we will be having the Doodle Therapy, we're calling it a season finale. Since, we might be back in the future in different forms. I'll definitely come back to Adobe Live and to streaming, just taking a little break for now. So thanks to Matt and Roxy for being our wonderful guests, this week, and especially as our like final guests for the Doodle Therapy, this like series. Our stream next week for our like grand finale goodbye will be with some Doodle Therapy alum, Amy Wibowo and Catherine Madden. So, we'll be doing like an encore stream together. So thanks to everyone for joining us live. It's been really great. Please feel free to say hi on the internets at @woodandwave_wave or by Alice Lee. Say hi if you weren't able to join us live. And we'll be back here tomorrow at the same time. So thanks to Roxy and Matt for joining us and for all the, great conversation and wisdom shared. And we'll see you again tomorrow at the same time. Bye.
Bye.
See you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oops.